Why are some stores wildly successful while others struggle to stay afloat? Well, after leading retail brands like Starbucks, Banana Republic, David's Tea, and Apple for over 20 years, I've uncovered a powerful truth. And let me tell you, it's not about location, it's not even about the product, and it's definitely not just about marketing. You could have the worst location and still thrive. You could sell a product that's been done 100 times before and still hit it out of the park. Why? Because the secret to a successful store lies in one thing: your people. Let me explain. Through years of experience, I've learned the difference between a high-performing store and a low-performing one comes down to how your employees answer 3 critical questions every single day. Number 1, does my manager care about me? Number 2, can I trust my manager? And number 3, is my manager helping me advance in my career, aka developing my skills, increasing my income, and supporting my growth? Here's the kicker. If your employees can answer yes to all 3 of these questions, you'll have a motivated, aligned, and unstoppable team. If they answer no, well, that's when turnover, poor performance, and low morale creep in. It's not rocket science, but it does require intentional leadership, caring about your team, earning their trust, and investing in their growth isn't just a nice to have. It's the foundation of a successful business. So if you want to turn your store into a high-performing powerhouse, start here. Focus on these 3 questions and watch the transformation unfold. So my name is April Sobral. I am an experienced retail operator, sales leader, entrepreneur, author, and I have worked with some of the biggest brands in the world throughout my career, but also now as an entrepreneur and a leadership coach, I work with small brands just like you to help you just empower your team and become the leader that you want to be. Now, all of the clients that I work with are really focused on 2 things. How do I retain my staff, make more sales, retain my customers, and lower cost? And every week I go live and I come and answer questions from my audience and my community. And so you can go ahead and make a comment down below, leave me a question, and I would be more than happy to answer it. So let's have a look at the questions that came in this last week. And I'm going to look at them on my computer so that I can answer them and read them out to you. So the first question that came in from John in Baltimore was, how can I build trust within my team? Well, John, how do you build trust within your team? There's a few ways that you can do it. But number 1, you hear that phrase, right? Children do what they see you do versus what you tell them to do. As a leader, a business owner, it's really important to build trust by following through on everything that your team is asking of you, which means leading by example and role modeling. There's nothing worse than working for a boss, a leader, and somebody that says they're going to do something and then doesn't follow through on it. The number 1 reason why people erode trust is because they just don't follow through on things. So simple example is if your team is asking you for something that's going to make their life easier or day off that they need to, be at home with their family, make sure you follow up and you give them what you say you're going to do. If you say, yeah, no problem, you can have the day off, don't schedule them, right? And make a mistake on the schedule and then have them be frustrated about having to show up to work. Because again, that's just not building trust. Second of all, if they're asking for something for their job to make it a lot easier, you could definitely facilitate that and make sure you're giving them everything they need. And if you say you're going to do something, do it. Again, there's nothing worth, John, than saying you're going to do something and just not show up. So building trust requires you as a leader to show up, right? Role model and follow through on what you said you're going to do so that your team can rely on you. The ultimate thing when you think about trust is, can I rely on you? And what does that look like? And so if you think about any of the relationships you have in your life, whether that be your partner, your parents, your friends, your peers, your business network, people that you can rely on, you trust, right? So you want to build that. Same with customers. Customers are building trust every day when they come into your store because what you said online, what promotion you said was out there, they walked in and they found it. You're not sending one message and then showing up as another. So that's a really good way to build trust. Another question that came in: how do I balance being approachable while maintaining authority? A lot of leaders have this problem where they get really, really bossy, right? Because they all of a sudden assumed a title. I can remember early on in my career when I was promoted to a store manager for the first time. And every time I got promoted and I took on another title, it's a very slippery slope when you start becoming bossy and authoritative. Now, you want your team to respect you, right? Because there's, you probably got objectives, policies, rules, things that, you want them to abide by. But, maintaining an approachable persona is really, really important because you're building relationships with your team. If you want to get the best out of them, you need to be able to be approachable. So how do you do that? Well, it's simple. Build positive relationships. I always say to leaders when I'm working with them, if you have an owner title, or you have a senior manager role, or a senior vice president role, or you have some big title that you are carrying around with you, it's going to enter the room before you. So your job is to make sure that you understand that, assume that that's happening, and then to reduce the resistance to you that title's creating. So how do you do that? You get on the shop floor, or you get into the team and you do the work with them to show them that you're a human, to show them, again, building trust, that you're willing to work alongside with them. And that's gonna make you approachable. There were so many times when I went to visit stores, when I was a vice president of stores, where I knew my title went before me, right? And when I was walking into the store, they'd be running around trying to do everything for me. And the first thing I would do was just pick up a broom and start sweeping the floor. Now, it sounds really stupid and kind of simple, but that made me seem human. I was willing to do the work with them. So that was really, really important. However, maintaining authority is about making sure that you're staying professional all times. You're communicating the expectations. You're also holding people accountable to those expectations and letting them know, listen, yes, we're going to be working together and, we want to have fun. But at the end of the day, we have a business and we have sales to produce to make sure that this business is successful. So remember that you don't have to tell your team everything about your personal life, coming in the morning and talking to them about your argument that you had with your significant other. You don't need to do that to be approachable. People get that confused all the time. No, what you need to do is be friendly and willing to work with them, alongside them, ask them lots of questions, get to know them, remember things about their family, but then also hold the standards and the practices and the policies in place so that they understand what's expected of them. Really good question. Thank you, Steve. Okay, next question. How can I manage team conflicts effectively? This is a great question and something that most people shy away from because, let's face it, none of us like conflict, right? We're conflict averse, most people. I don't know anybody that runs into chaos. Most people are running away from it. So to manage team conflicts effectively is you need to really have a neutral mindset and be impartial and learn how to respond versus react. Now, what I mean by that is when people are coming to you and they're giving you all the drama of everything that's going on, that you're not getting emotionally bought into the story. You're actually staying objective because your goal is to get them to work together. It's not to jump into the boat with them, which a lot of people do, right? Because we're humans, we have empathy, and we want to get involved with them. So what you need to do is just stay impartial. So there's a few things you can do. And the 5 steps of managing conflict is literally listening, open ears, like paying attention, letting them share everything with you. Now, you're listening for facts, right? You're going to probably hear a lot of emotions, but you want to listen to the facts, and you want to call out the facts with your team member to get them away from the emotion so that you can really help them be objective with the situation. So that's number one. So number two, it's really important that you ask open-ended questions like, tell me what happened, where was this situation, what was said, what was shared, what response did you have? So you're asking them open-ended questions to really help them get all the information out that you need to be able to make a decision about what happens next. Now, the reason why what is such a powerful question versus why is what evokes the logical mind. Why actually makes people defensive. So when you're in a conflict management situation, you want to use the word what. It pushes people into the logical mind, and it will help them kind of detach from their emotions around the situation. Now, the third step is actually asking them what solutions that they're looking for, right? If it's a conflict between two people, a lot of times, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, it's happened to me, where people have said to me, I don't want to work on the same shift as this person. And sometimes that's just not possible, because if you're a business owner and a small retailer, you have to put people's schedule together. So asking them what they want from this or what solution they want is going to give you basically an idea of what happens next, because step 4 is to really sit them down together and get them to work it out. And, to do that, it can be a bit scary, but, if you can use this framework and coach them how to do this 3-step framework for resolving conflict, you'll be ahead of the game. And the 3-step conflict for any conflict management communication is called WIN. W stands for when this happens. So if you coach your employees to use this, when this happens, it's literally taking it away from how I feel and putting it on the situation, which is going to dissipate the emotions around it. So WIN. When this happens. The second I in WIN is it makes me feel like this. So when this happens, it makes me feel like this. And then the third step in this acronym is called N. So WIN is this is what I need, right? So you're going to have both parties involved that are in a conflict management situation. You're managing this conflict, and you're going to teach them both to use this and literally have them script it out before they have this conversation. People can save marriages by using this conflict management style. I've helped lots of friends have conversations with their boss, with their partner, with their parents, just using this. And it sounds really, really simple, because it is. So WIN. When this happens, it makes me feel like here's what I need. And then at the end of it, which is step 5, is just recapping with both parties, the conversation, the expectations moving forwards, and letting them know that you're here to support them, but setting some expectations about what it looks like moving forwards and working together. Obviously, if you have more conflict issues with these two people, I don't know what to tell you. Send them on a weekend vacation. Maybe they're a bit stressed working for you. No, I'm only joking. No, basically you could go through that again, or, if it's a behavior issue with somebody on your team, have a separate conversation with them. It's really hard sometimes, I know, when people come and complain about somebody on your team, and you may be dealing with that too. But I always say 3 complaints deserve feedback. And if it's not 3 from 3 different people, then it's probably just one person having an emotional reaction to that person on your team. But it's a good question, right? Managing team conflicts effectively. At the end of the day, what you want to do is solve the conflict so that everybody understands that working together is the goal. It doesn't mean to say that they have to like each other and hang out at the weekend. You're not trying to solve that problem. You're just trying to make sure that when they're at work, there's an expectation around how they work together, and giving them coaching with the WIN acronym to help them navigate these conversations and give feedback. Again, because who really teaches us how to deal with conflict? Nobody. So the WIN acronym is your secret weapon. Try it and let me know what happens. Okay, next question. This is from Susie. What can I do to foster collaboration among team members? This is such a great question, Susie. And what I used to do a lot of the time would kind of on my team, I had different people that are really good at different things, right? Everybody has their own strengths and their own weakness. And so I would partner people together with complementary skills and put them on a project together so that they could collaborate and create something together and work together. So I think if you have projects that you're working on, maybe that's a marketing initiative, or maybe it's visual merchandising, maybe it's a hiring or training some new people, getting ready for the holidays, whatever that is, think about on your team what strengths you have and maybe put two of them together that are complementary. So maybe one person's really great at selling and helping customers, and the other person is really good at organizing and, stocking your store. Maybe you could put them together on a project and have them work together to create something maybe for a peak day. So you have your salesperson, you have your person that's stocking it, and they're a team now and they're working together to create magic for your customers. So putting people together on projects is a really good way to do that. Another way for people to collaborate together is when one of your staff members comes to you and asks you to solve a problem, what you can do is direct them to somebody on your team that could help them solve it, right? So that you're not having to solve every single problem, you're not having to answer every single question, because that can be really tiring. And that's a really handy tip. I like to call that two before me. So go find two people on the team that can give you an answer and a solution before you come to me and ask me. And what that can do is it can create that team collaboration, because if I have an issue and I can't find the answer to it, there's got to be two other people on the team that I can ask for help with. So two before me is a great way to get people to collaborate together too. Okay, how can I create a culture of accountability? Well, first of all, culture is not built by to-do lists, tasks, and emails. Culture is built every day by the work that we do and the way that we show up and the words that we use. So culture, first of all, has to be something that you're thinking about of how everybody's behaving every day. And most companies that I work with have a set of values or ways to operate so that everybody knows what culture we're trying to create. So if you don't have those, it's really important that first of all, you frame up what your culture is going to be. Then there's vision, mission, statements, and all that kind of stuff. But really what I find is when you can really put down on paper, statements of how you want to operate, then that's the first start to creating culture. When it comes to a culture of accountability, what's required is that when somebody's not pulling their weight or they're not meeting the expectations, is that you deal with them as a leader. If you do not deal with it because you're afraid or you're conflict adverse or you don't know how to approach them and give them that feedback, then you're just basically creating a culture of non-accountability. And people that are high performers that want to do a good job really don't appreciate that. They want to make sure that everybody else on the team is being held accountable. So no favoritism or overlooking somebody's performance. You need to have clear standards, clear expectations, and clear responsibilities for everybody on your team. That requires things like job models, roles and responsibilities outlined, team meetings where it's discussed what everybody's responsible for, and then you need to follow through on it. Now, we use a framework called the 9 Steps of Accountability. You'll be able to learn more about this framework in my new book that's coming out called Account Plus Ability: How to Demystify Accountability for Business Leaders. And in all of my years of teaching accountability, there are 9 steps that we teach that help you build that culture of accountability. And I want to say to you, first of all, that accountability is a process. There is a framework around it. And when you start to learn this framework and apply it, this question won't even become relevant anymore because you'll be just following the process. Number 1 is, do you have the right person in the right place? So assessing, is that person in the right role? Sometimes we hire people, they interview fantastically, they sell you, you think they're going to be the best on the sales floor, and you hire them and all of a sudden you're like, what happened? I thought they were going to be the best salesperson ever, but maybe there's some other talents and skills that this person has, right? So number one, do you have the right person in the right place? So that's really, really important. If you do have the right person in the right place, we'll make that assumption. Step number two, which most leaders miss, is setting clear expectations. Now, setting clear expectations does not sound like go do this, directing, and then let them go off. I've made that mistake so many times and then thought, God, what is happening right now? Why aren't they delivering on what I'm expecting them to do? And I have to reflect in the mirror, like you will, and literally ask yourself, was I clear? And were they clear on and had a clear understanding of the expectations? And the only way you're going to know that is if you ask them after you've asked them what you want them to do, to repeat back to you what their understanding is. Listen, we all use different words, we all speak differently, we understand and hear things differently, right? So it's really important that you're asking, what did you hear me say? And what's your understanding of what my expectations are? So that's the first step. Now, a lot of other steps, and I'm not going to go into all of them. You can definitely read more about that, again, like I said, in the book, or if you attend a training of mine, you'll learn more about them in the training too. But yeah, there's a framework. And so I think having a specific framework really does demystify what accountability looks like. And then everybody's really clear, because at the end of the day, it's about just being clear. Clear standards, clear expectations, and then following through. Great question. Okay, next question. So how do I delegate tasks without losing control of the outcomes? Well, first of all, if you're delegating a task, I don't even understand how that question came up, losing control of outcomes. What are you trying to let go of? Are you a manager that's doing everything yourself and trying to control everything? Because if you are, you're never going to reach the outcomes that you want. You can't be at work all of the time doing everything yourself. So I want you to pause and think about, what outcomes am I trying to drive and control? A better word would be to inspire outcomes, right? Versus control the outcomes. Control makes people feel contracted. It's kind of like it makes us shrink. Whereas we want people to thrive. We want to inspire them. So how to delegate tasks is a great question though. First of all, you need to write down everything that you need to do. Be very, very clear. I love doing it on a Sunday. I write down my to-do list, everything that I've got to get done for this week. And the way I kind of prioritize is, if I was looking forward 5 days from now, what would I have wanted to accomplish in this week? And then I work my way backwards and I get a to-do list. And then the next step is, what are the things on the to-do list that only I can do? So then, I create that list, and then now I have a list of additional things. And I'm starting to look at who on my team has the skill and the ability to take on these tasks. And also, if they don't currently, with a bit of coaching and training, could they? And then what's required to make sure that they're able to do it, right? So that's really, really important. And then I literally add up all the tasks I have to do and add up the hours. If I was going to get all of these things done, how many hours would it take me? And do I have enough hours in my week? And if the hours of the to-do list are longer than the hours I actually have in my week, I have to go back and actually delegate some more tasks. So I do the whole process all over again. So don't be worried about losing control. Let things go. Otherwise, you're going to be forever burdened and tired. And another way to help people making sure that you're measuring the outcomes, because I think it's not really about controlling the outcomes, it's more about measuring the outcomes, is having people check in with you when they've completed the task that you've delegated it to. A lot of leaders completely miss that step. Like if I said to you, hey, Julie, can you go and do that display over there and ship that item to the customer and maybe call them, create an appointment, whatever the thing is that they need to get done. If you just delegated that, you may feel nervous. Is it going to get done? Is it going to get done? If you asked and delegated that to your staff and then said, hey, check in with me when you've done it, just shoot me a text, shoot me an email, let me know it's done, let me know how it goes. You're now delegating the follow-up to the person on your team. And how great is that? Because now everybody's going to be following up with you and you not having to follow up with them, which just lightened the load and empowered them to go and take ownership of what you're asking them to do. So I hope that helps with the delegating tasks without losing control of the outcomes. How can I keep my team focused and aligned with company goals? Well, first of all, they need to know what the goals are. Too many business leaders, store owners, cafe, whatever business you're running right now, do not have goals and objectives that their team really even knows what they are. I can tell you this from working in retail for 3 decades and walking stores all over the country and literally having conversations with teams where they just were not aware of the company's goals. So if you want to keep them focused and aligned with the company goals, you need to communicate them. So how are you communicating the company's goals? Are you creating a vision board, a mission statement? Do you have a communication strategy? Do you have a board in the back room of your store? Do you have a communication binder? How do you communicate those goals? Just like sales goals, if you don't have a sales goal, you will not get there, right? Everybody needs to know what that is. So communicate those, communicate, and yeah, that's really, really important. How do I recognize and reward my team's achievements effectively? This is a great question from Joanne in Halifax. Well, recognize them. First of all, to recognize somebody and their achievements, you have to be paying attention and be present. If you are not present and paying attention and actually observing what somebody's doing, then you'll never be able to recognize them. So first of all, be present, be there wherever your team is so that you can catch them doing something really well. I say that and it sounds simple, but how many times are you sitting somewhere super busy, going through everything you've got to get done and not paying attention to the people around you? Literally, I want you to walk into your business today with this mindset. I'm going to look for things to catch people doing the right thing. Now, you might see a lot of other things, but hopefully you'll catch them doing the right thing. So that's number one, be present, pay attention. Number two, you could definitely create an engagement program or a recognition program where you do Employee of the Month. You could do things where you create what that looks like from a guideline standpoint of what quantifies you for being an Employee of the Month, right? So maybe they're living the values, maybe they've got like an amazing Google review, or maybe they've been the most helpful person on the team. Maybe they've been the person that's showed up every single day, they're the most reliable. Whatever it is, you can create that with your team, and you could even ask them what do they want to be recognized for. So you could definitely create some recognition awards, even funny things like little trophies from a dollar store. It sounds really, really simple, but people love recognition. And then I think lastly, it's just thanking people. We can't thank our staff enough. Now, you might think, well, I pay them to do the job and they're here so that they should just do it. And if you continue to have that attitude, they will not be working for you in the next 3 to 6 months. They're going to go find somebody else that's recognizing them and thanking them for their hard work. Thank you is free, it costs you nothing, and it is an easy thing to say at the end of everybody's day. Thank you for your contribution today. Thank you for helping that customer out. Thank you for cleaning the floor. Thank you for staying that additional hour extra and just helping us get the store back together. There is so many ways to thank people, and it just breeds that positivity in the store. So I hope that helps you with recognizing and rewarding your team's achievements effectively. And you can never reward and recognize people too much. It doesn't always have to be money. Yes, it's nice when you have like a gift card, maybe you do a Starbucks card in a contest for the highest sales and somebody wins it. But 9 times out of 10, what I've learned in all the teams I've led, it was just literally recognizing somebody for something that they did that was specific and then thanking them for it. So look for those opportunities to recognize your team members. How can I prevent burnout and support work-life balance? This is a great question. Most burnout happens at the mental level. And so most employees, believe it or not, worry about work and their boss more than the opposite. So if you can create a place where people do not have to worry, meaning you've got clear expectations, they know what's expected of them, they're feeling appreciated, they're feeling good every day, and you can remove that concern and that worry that people have about their boss, that in itself will help them feel more present and more relaxed and less stressed, right? So I want you to think about that. Burnout is a mental game, first of all. Secondly, making sure that people are taking breaks, drinking water, all of that good stuff is really, really important. When you're dealing with customers, you're dealing with the public, right? And you can get really burnt out from talking all day. I remember working on the sales floor at Apple and literally walking from one side of the shop to the other side. I had about 50 people just come at me and say, "Can I ask you a question?" And I had to hold on to all of these questions when I was walking through the store. And so, there's a lot of conversation that happens. So finding that quiet time and that peaceful space and giving really good breaks, making sure you're hydrated and all of that good stuff really does help with removing burnout. Also, when you're thinking about scheduling people on your team, ensuring that you're not scheduling them 8 days in a row, right? Which can happen in retail or in hospitality, these kind of industries, giving them really great space days off. So making sure that your schedule is effective and it's working for them. I can't tell you how many times when I was an assistant manager or a store manager working for a brand where I was expected to work 7 days in a row and overnights and working all of these additional hours. And I don't even know how I did it if I think about it today. But there was an expectation and I had a job and I needed to pay my bills, so that I did it. And I don't think that we're living in a world today where people accept that. I think that there is less tolerance for burnout, and I think we need to really think about our teams and what they have to deal with on a daily basis. So think about that and making sure that you have the right amount of staff on your sales floor. If you're understaffed, people are going to be tired, right? So making sure that your schedule is really, really good is really helpful. How do I set meaningful goals that inspire and challenge my team? That's a really great question. Goals are so important when it comes to your business, and setting challenging goals is really, really good for your team because it will stretch them to go after them and achieve them. So one of the things I like to do when I'm setting a goal up is asking my team members, what part of the objectives which we're trying to meet are they excited about? And if they get excited about building content, doing social media, or going out and talking to a client, I try and include them in helping us achieve the goals that are more meaningful to them. Now, that's not always possible, right? But I do think that linking something that's really motivating to somebody personally can make it a more meaningful goal. Another way of looking at this is, what's something that somebody can learn? Right? And if it's a skill that they can learn, can you give them a meaningful goal that will give them a stretch assignment and then challenge them to learn? Because most people always want to grow and develop their skills. And if you can attach that growth and that learning experience to a goal, it will make it more meaningful. And challenging your team is just getting them to think beyond what they are able to do. Now, there's a really great story from my first book, The Positive Effect, A Retail Leader's Guide to Changing the World, about a goal that I was given and very challenged to achieve, called the $1 million chocolate bar. And you've probably heard me talk about this if you've seen me speak live or you've been in my training sessions, but it's such a great reminder because I had a vice president that set me a goal that I did not believe I could achieve. And the one thing that was getting in the way of that was I wasn't thinking about the possibilities, I was thinking about the past history and experience and evidence. So to challenge team members, to get them to hit a goal and inspire them, we have to get them beyond what their evidence is telling them and get them to a mindset of what's possible. Now, there's 3 ways that we teach leaders to do that. We call it the 3 R's. So release is releasing a limiting belief or something that's holding me back from accomplishing that goal. So for example, in my example of the chocolate bar, it was releasing the thought that I couldn't do it because I had never done it before. Now, the second step is reach. So reaching for a new possibility. And so again, in that example of the chocolate bar, it was, I'm choosing to believe that this goal that I'm being provided and given is achievable through these means. So I was choosing a different mentality, I was choosing to believe. And then reframing, which is step 3, is turning it into a positive affirmation that feels good as if we've already done it. So reframing would sound something like, it felt so great to hit that sales goal and surpass it by X amount of dollars. You can have a lot of fun with this. You could have a board in your back room, and you could have Post-its, and you could do the release, the reach, and the reframe, and have everybody write down what their beliefs are that are causing them to think that they can't achieve it, and then reach for a new one and reframe it into an affirmation. You could also do it digital. If you have a digital communication tool, you could do it that way as well. But that's a really, really fun way to challenge your team and get them to think beyond what they think that they can achieve. So I hope that's helpful. Okay, if you have questions about the programs, the link is in my bio, so check it out. Thanks for watching, and thank you for sending in your questions. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, make a comment, ask a question, and we'll see you on another episode.